Welcome to Beyond Beauty, the Professional Beauty Association's podcast, where we take a deeper look inside the minds and hearts of the amazing artists in our professional beauty industry. I am your host, Leslie Perry, and I say this every time, and I am so excited for our guest today. I was thinking about this, Jaime, and I thought you're like the OG of social media for the beauty professional. It's like, I think Jaime and all that you've done as a result of it, and can't wait to talk more about that and so many other things with you. But thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Yes, of course. Like when you asked me, can I be a part of this? I was like 100% yes. I love everything you guys have done. I've been a customer for a long time, and just to be a part of your guys' world and to be a part of this. And I just love how much you guys are furthering the industry. So yes, when you asked me to be a part of this, 100% I'm down. Always.
Thank you. So, as we get started, I don't know where to begin, but I think I want to start like with the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
With your launch with Framar and everything that's been happening with that. And did you ever think or see yourself, like your career heading in that direction when you started in beauty?
Yeah, well, it's so crazy. So I have been in the hair industry since like 2011. So take it back. I actually was homeschooled my whole life and went into beauty school when I was 16. I graduated high school at 16, went to beauty school when I was like 16, 17, and started in a salon at 17. So this is back in like, gosh, not even 2011. This was like way back before that. This was I don't even know, 2009, a long time ago. And, obviously back when I started, social media wasn't really a thing. I think there was like Facebook, and I had like a Facebook business page like back when I started, but like Instagram wasn't even a platform. And so as I started to grow and like, be an assistant and be, a commission stylist and then become a rental stylist, like really expanding into the industry. That's kind of when social media became more of a thing and Instagram became more popular. And then hairstylists were kind of using it to grow their business. And it's funny because looking back then, I knew eventually that I wanted to go into education. I knew that eventually I wanted to do something like this. But, I was a stylist just working behind the chair, trying to build my clientele. And I honestly did not think that going into education or being an industry leader was something that was on my plate at all. I thought, that'll be something that I do when I'm like 50 or like I'm ready to kind of retire from behind the chair. I'll go work for a product company or something like that. Like someday I'll do that. And I always knew though that I had a heart for education and a heart for seeing stylists and seeing them grow their businesses as well. So it was kind of funny. It was one of the very first things when Instagram started to become more popular and independent education was becoming more of a thing. It wasn't like only people that were working for product brands. It was actually these educators coming out and being independent educators. And I started to see that and I was like, oh my gosh, like I could potentially do this. Like with a platform like Instagram, you really could grow a community, an audience, and an education brand straight from Instagram. And I was like, okay, like other people are doing this. Like, I want to do that too. And the reason why I bring up all of this, just to kind of share a little bit of my backstory, is because that was at the time when Framar was kind of becoming a known brand. At the time, they really only had like foils. And, there wasn't a lot of product companies out there. There were a few different ones that would provide foils. And then there were, like color brushes that you would get with your color order as like free, like, okay, you ordered 10 tubes of color. Here's a color brush with you, like that's how you would get your color.
That you get, like
yeah. And like even I remember being a Goldwell product company, and like using their stuff, and like you'd get like 5 color brushes in your order because you've placed a big order, and like that's how you got your tools. Or you'd go to Cosmoprof and they would have just like basic color brushes. And I remember Guy Tang actually being one of those big independent educators and coming out and kind of sharing stuff on YouTube and Instagram. And he was like by far the biggest educator at the time. And he started to share about this product company called Framar. And I was like, what is this? And I was watching Guy Tang's YouTube videos, which by the way, he was like, I would say the pioneer when it came to YouTube education for other hairstylists. And he was using these bristles, AccuSoft bristles with Framar brushes. And I was like, what is this? And these long foils. And he was doing all these balayage, intense color correction services. And so I was like, well, whatever he's using, I need to use. And the immediate, like first time I ever touched a Framar brush, I was like, this is a game changer. It truly is something that's very unique and very different from everything that was out there. And so obviously I became a huge fan of the brand and just like their tools because they worked and they were amazing. And, slowly but surely, as I grew as an educator, and I hate using the word influencer because to me, it's got such a tarnished name, but as a content creator, as an educator in the industry, I'd go to shows, I would teach at shows. And as I started to go to these shows, I started to meet different brands. And Framar was one of those brands that I became really connected with, and just became really close friends with Gio and French, some of the head people over at Framar. And we just kind of stayed in contact, and we just had a really great relationship. And over the years, it was something where I was like, gosh, I would love to have my own product line eventually. Like that's something that's like goals for me. And not like shampoo and conditioner, like, no, my own product tools, that would be something that would be amazing. But I also knew I didn't want to go into manufacturing. I didn't want to go to China. I didn't want to have to try to figure it out on my own. Didn't want to have to figure out distribution and all of that stuff. And I also knew that I didn't want to compete with the brand that I loved. I knew that they had the top tools in the industry. And I was like, I'm not going to go in and compete with them. Like that doesn't make any sense, and I'm not going to create a lesser quality tool. So it's either I collab with them or I don't do it at all. And so, yeah, about a year and a half ago, I kind of approached the brand. They had asked me different opinions on things, and they would come to me with different things. And I pitched them the idea of creating a collection with Framar, and it kind of bloomed into this huge thing. And we ended up doing a whole docu-series around it, a 5-part docu-series to show everyone, show stylists, show people in the industry what it's like to create a product collection like this, what it's like to go from idea to finished product, and the good, the bad, the ugly with it. And yeah, it's been a wild ride, a crazy journey. And as of the time of this recording, we just launched it literally a couple weeks ago. And it's been insane and amazing and so cool at the same time. Really a dream come true.
What I love about the collection is it really shows that the products that you use as a stylist can serve the function and be very amazing from a functional perspective, but they can also look beautiful, because it doesn't need to be the afterthought. If you're thinking about your clients see this and you have an aesthetic and we're doing services in the aesthetic realm, why shouldn't our tools also look amazing while we're doing the service?
Yeah. And that was the vision for it too, right? We now see stylists, and this was the thing that I shared with them. I said, we see stylists sharing their brands on Instagram. And back in the day, when I first started in the industry, it was like your brand as a stylist was just like whatever salon you worked for, right? So whatever your salon's aesthetic was, that was your aesthetic. And now with Instagram and with things like salon suites, or just even you're having your own business cards or having your own stickers, like whatever that looks like, stylists really are branding themselves as themselves, which is so cool. And yes, they work for salons, but they really are their individual businesses. And this is something that I've been teaching for the last 6-7 years of like, no matter what, if you're a commission stylist or a rental stylist, like you are a business owner and you are responsible for growing that business. Yes, the salon might bring you clients. Yes, you might get referrals from the salon, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a person in your chair, you're not making money, right? So you are a business owner. And I think as stylists, really reframing our mindset to be, okay, no, I am a business owner. I am in charge of my future, So to me, that was something that was really important with this whole collection was, this is the brand of each stylist. Stylists are really showcasing their own brands and personalities. And with that, creating an experience for their clients. And clients love to see those things like the fun foils. What client wouldn't want that in their hair, right? Or even just seeing you use a glass bowl versus a traditional plastic bowl, right? It just up levels that experience and really puts our industry in a place of we are luxury services. We offer and provide services to the general public that aren't just, you're just a hairstylist. This is just a salon. No, this is something that's really high end. It can be very luxury or luxurious. And honestly, it's something where it helps elevate our industry to the point where people are taking us seriously. This is a real job. This is a real career, and you can make a good amount of money doing it. And so obviously there's so much that goes into it with my vision with this collection, but that's just a part of it, of like really up leveling our entire industry.
I love to hear that too, because at PBA, we exist to elevate, unite, and serve the industry. And how do you help, and when you work with your clients, and mindset seems to be such a big part of that. And even hearing you talk about, no, it is a luxurious service. It is something we need to think about that. But how do you get to that mindset? Because it can be hard every day in the, when you're in the day-to-day of it all, like to get to that place in your own mind of, no, what I'm doing is I am not just a fill in the blank.
Mm. Yeah. This is something that I've touched on quite a bit, and I've shared posts about it on Instagram because it is so true, right? As a stylist day to day in, it's a lot of work. We're standing on our feet all day. We're tired. We probably didn't get to eat, a
Haven't gone
normal
to the
lunch
bathroom.
break. Haven't gone to the bathroom, right? You're surviving off of iced coffee and, whatever is heating up in the microwave really quick. Like our jobs are a lot. But one of the things that I think we often forget about is we're not just a hairstylist. We're not just a salon owner. We're not just, an eyelash tech. Like we truly make an impact in our clients' lives. And for those of you who don't know, I actually don't work in the salon anymore. I don't take clients in the salon. I stopped taking clients in 2018 to go full time into education for other stylists. But now I get to see the other side of the industry. I am a client. I do pay for my services. I do get my hair done. And it is wildly transformational for me to go into a salon and just to remember what it's like to be a client again and how it feels to get your hair done and how it makes you feel after and how you feel just revived as a person, right? You feel so good. And I think we forget that as stylists of every day, every client that sits in our chair, we get to impact their life in some small way. And it could be something as small as making them feel more beautiful or more confident in their hair. But it can also be just listening to them and hearing what's going on in their life and to physically touch them and just to be that support for them. And we get to do that however many times a day, right? If you have 6 clients a day, you're getting to impact six different lives. And one of the things that I love to remind myself as a stylist and even as an educator, but the ripple effect that we as
Mm.
individual humans have. And for me as an educator, I get to hopefully impact stylist lives, and then they get to go into their salons and hopefully impact their clients' lives, and then those clients go on and they get to impact their spouse or their kids or their friends' lives, and then those people go out and impact others. And so, just the ripple effect that we get to have as stylists is huge, and something that I think we so often forget about. But it's something to remember, especially on those hard days when you're having just a day, whether it's a cancellation or a color didn't go right, or you're just having a tiring day, just to remember the impact that we truly get to make in every single person's life that's in our chair.
And one thing that you said, and maybe you don't realize you're saying it, but you were saying multiple times, I get to. And I think that's important to point out too, because often I think a lot of times, especially on those hard days, we have that mindset of I have to, not I get the privilege of doing something like this.
Yeah. And I think, that kind of goes back to that mindset every day. And I'm not perfect at it for sure. There are days that I sit down at my computer desk, I'm like, oh, I got to do this task or, oh, I got to do this thing. And like, more often than not, that happens, right? But kind of even reframing of like, I get to impact people's lives. I get to do this. I get to show up every day and be creative in my job. And yeah, there are parts of our jobs as stylists that we don't like to do, right? Like sweeping and cleaning up all those bowls at the end of the long day and, texting back clients. Like that's not the fun part of our job. But again, those things that we get to do this every single day. We're not sitting at a desk, working a boring 9 to 5 job or having to go, clean up porta potties. Like that's literally someone's job. And that's not our job. We get to be creative and get our hands in hair and to really just be around people, which I think is something that's so special and so unique, and something that's just really cool and unique about our industry.
What do you find most fulfilling about being in beauty? And now you said, you're kind of in a different role within the industry now, but what is so fulfilling? Like what keeps you staying in beauty?
Yeah. And like I said, for me, I see a different side of the industry. Like I get to impact stylists and I think about those stories. I obviously get DMs or, comments on like my YouTube videos and stuff. And on those days when I'm having those days of like, I have to do this, I do truly have to go back to remembering why I'm here and why I'm doing this. And for me, it sometimes comes in a form of a DM of someone saying, hey, because of you, I started going to cosmetology school, or because of your YouTube videos, I now feel confident to be able to do this type of service, or because of something that you shared on Instagram, I now am actually being able to get more clients from Instagram and make more money behind the chair. And again, the ripple effect of that of now I'm able to support my family. And like all of those things are just so incredible. So those are the things that keep me going. I think it's that human connection side of just being able to impact stylists in so many different ways. And I think one of the things I have to remember too is, while yes, I do get those DMs and those comments, and maybe for you as a stylist, you get those comments from a client sitting in their chair of just like, wow, you made me feel so beautiful, or the text message after, like, gosh, I love my hair so much. We have to remember that those are the few that we hear, but there's
Right.
so many more that don't say anything, right? There's those clients that are going home that are in love with their hair, feeling more confident, and they don't send a text message. They may never even say something. They might even be the client that you're like, gosh, do they even
They
like their
like
hair, right?
it.
Yeah, it's always those ones, and they're like, yeah, I love it, but they would never say that, right? And so it's like we have to remember that the few and far between that we do hear, those good reviews we do hear, we have to remember that there's so many more people who aren't saying anything, and I have to remember that too. So yeah.
So, I mean, you've been in the industry a while and you've come so far and done so many different things. What advice do you give to younger Jaime?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, like I said, I started in the industry quite a long time ago. And back then, again, there wasn't social media. But one of the things that someone actually gave me as advice when I first started was get your hands in hair. And I think that that was something that was so impactful because, as a newer stylist, or even just as somebody learning a new service, maybe you're not a new stylist, but maybe you're learning how to do a new service for the first time or trying a new technique. It's like getting your hands in hair and just practicing it and doing it over and over again, and not being afraid to fail, quote unquote, right? Because the first time you do something, it's never going to be the best time, right? Like I'm definitely a perfectionist. And so I would struggle with, I would try something and it wouldn't turn out the way that I thought it would, or I would fumble with my fingers and it just wasn't quite, like wasn't holding the foils right, or just didn't feel as natural. But the more I did it, the better I got at it. And this is what I talk about when it comes to even things like social media. I have a lot of stylists or salon owners that come to me and they're like, gosh, I don't feel very confident on Instagram, or I've tried to do Instagram stories, or I tried to create Instagram reels, but I'm not that good on video, or I'm not that funny, or I can never figure out what to write in the caption. I'm like, you just have to do it. In the same way, you just got to get your hands in hair. You just got to get those fingers on a keyboard, right? You just got to try it and you just got to test it out. And yeah, the first Instagram story or the first reel you make is not going to be good. It never will be. In fact, go watch some of my first YouTube videos. They're definitely not that good, but
You
I
kept
keep
them out there
because yeah, of course I keep them up there because it shows people how far you can grow and how far you can
Yeah.
come, right? Like, and even still, I watch some even YouTube videos from a year ago and I'm like, oh gosh, like
Yeah.
they're not that great, right? Like even Instagram stories, I go back in my Instagram story archives. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've grown a lot and I still will continue to grow. And the things that I create and make today, in 2 years, in 3 years, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I've grown so much from there. So just get your hands in hair. Just keep trying things. Don't be afraid to fail. And I think like, yeah, the more you do it, the better you're going to get.
So is there anything missing, do you think, in beauty right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, we've seen a big shift
Yeah.
in the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID had played a huge impact in that. But I think even from there, we went from, I mean, like I said, I've been in the industry. Did I say 10 years? I think it's been like 12 years at this point. But,
Which isn't
go,
that long. I
it's
mean,
not that long. It really is. I know. And I'm sure there's
if
people
you were
listening
like
to this like, you're such a
2010 or something, I'm
baby.
like, oh my gosh, 2010. Woo, I
Yeah,
was like 2010.
right. But I
Definitely
think,
not in high school.
right. Yeah. I think for me there was this change in the industry where we saw like social media be
Mhm.
part of it, right? And we saw this shift, and now that's, I would say, pretty normal. Like I feel like most stylists are on Instagram, most stylists are playing around with Instagram, some are on TikTok, some are learning other things. But we saw the shift with social media and independent education and salon suites. We saw a lot of stylists go into salon suites. And I think, over time, especially with COVID, I think we're going to see more stylists come back into salons. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that community again. I hope that in-person education becomes
Yes.
something again. I know we've talked about that, you, Leslie, and I, like we've talked about that, of just like, man, seeing how even hair shows have changed and shifted. And I think they still will. I don't think we're ever going to go
Mhm.
back to where we were 5, 10 years ago. But I think that that's good too. Like, I think that we are evolving so much as an industry and so quickly as an industry, but I think only that brings good change. So yeah, I feel like the thing that I feel like is missing in our industry is that in person again. I have held retreats of my own. I've held live events of my own. I love in person. I think that there's something so transformational about being in person and just being in a room of other stylists and seeing what people are dealing with. And, I'm not the only one struggling with that thing, right? You get to see
Mhm.
that. And also getting to meet the people that you've looked up to or the people that you've learned from. I think there's something really cool about that. So that would be one thing that I really do hope comes back. I think it'll look a little different than how it always has, but I think that there's so much room for it to come back. And I think that, having it be all digital. And obviously what I do is I teach digital. I only have online education. So for me to say something like this, it's like, no, like I think that there is time and space for digital. And I think that it's so great, but I also think bringing that in-person aspect to it as well.
Yeah, like you said, like that sense of community. It's hard. You have like the online community and you can create that, but definitely that being in person, it just brings a whole nother level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so do you have a next big adventure? I mean, you already launched a line with Framer. I mean, what else could there be?
I know. Honestly, that was like the whole year was planned around that launch. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I have a couple things in the works. I have my online education, so that's something that's we're always working in, and
Mhm.
launching it, bringing new people in, sharing that with new people. So that's something that's really fun. Sharing Instagram education with the hair industry, and that's what I started with, and that's what I love to do. But yeah, working on some fun stuff for 2023. Probably going to start dipping my toes a little bit more heavier into hair education. So that's
Ah,
something that haven't announced anywhere yet. So if you're listening to this, yeah, you heard it here
I love
first.
it. I
But
always get a little nugget from people.
uh,
I love
yeah,
it. Like,
I
say
shot it out
something.
of me. No, I think for me, it's like I truly love doing hair education. I've done a lot of it on YouTube over the last like 4 years. So just kind of up leveling that and really bringing that in. I think for me, one of the big things, and Leslie, you and I've talked about this, is just seeing so many brand new stylists come into the industry
Mhm.
and feel a little bit lost. Like, yes, our industry is moving at a really fast pace and new techniques are being created all the time. And there's so many amazing things that you can learn. But as a new stylist, that can feel really intimidating too. So my heart has always been for those new stylists that are getting in the industry, those cosmetology students, basically the Jaime that I was 10 years ago that didn't have these resources. So I want to create resources for them, and for those stylists that are just like, I just want to get really good at the basics, build a clientele, build a solid business, and really have this be an amazing career. So that's my heart. We'll see what comes with that, but definitely more education coming down the pipe.
Love it. Love it. All right. One last fun question and then we'll wrap up. But what's
Yeah.
your favorite decade? Do you have a favorite decade for the style, for the fashion, for the hair?
Oh, so good. Yes, I love the 70s. Honestly, like if I could have lived in the decade like the 70s, oh, like I was watching like a documentary the other day on Woodstock and I was like, oh, like I feel like I was supposed to be born in the 70s, like the colors, ever since I was little too. Like for some reason, I was actually talking to a friend about this. Like chartreuse green has always been a color that I love. I tend to go like more pinks and stuff, and you see that like in my branding and stuff, but that chartreuse green, which is fun that it became part of the Framework collection. You can definitely see nods to the 70s kind of in that collection, but the chartreuse green has been something that I've always loved. And I was telling a friend that even when I was little, I remember being like 8 years old and my mom was like, okay, you can pick out a sweatshirt at Old Navy. And I was like, I want the lime green one. And she was like, why? That one's so ugly. And I was like, I love it. And I think there's just something about the 70s that kind of have this like funky color palette, the groovy boho hippie. I love it. So yeah,
I
the
love it. I can
70s
see
for
that too.
sure.
Like I see that in you. So it was funny. I have to tell you. So when my husband met you this year at
Mm,
ISSE, he was helping out with the show. We bring in all the help for PDA,
yes.
but he's an engineer, so he's very much outside of the industry. And after meeting you, he said, you know, it's really interesting because most people, a lot of times, if they wear, at the time you had like one of the little gems on your teeth,
Yes, I
and
still have
yeah, and
it.
he was like, you know, most people I think, gosh, that's a little over the top, but that just really worked for her. Like her whole vibe. Like I was feeling that. I was like,
How
that's really
funny. I love
interesting
it.
for you to notice it. So anyway, I mean, yes, you fit the whole thing.
I'm glad it works. Yeah. It's funny when I first got this, people were like kind of shocked because I was like, it's almost kind of like a piercing, to be honest. But I was like, it's like a little one. It's not like a full grill, it's not a
Right.
chunk. But yeah, it's just kind of a little something fun. But it is funny. I do get comments on my YouTube videos all the time. People be like, there's something in your
There's
tooth,
something
or
in your
yeah,
tooth.
like, what's going on? And then I always get self-conscious when people say that in person. I'm like, is there actually something in my
You're
tooth?
like,
And they're
no,
trying to
it's
tell me,
my diamond
or is
sparkling.
it the diamond? Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah,
No,
it's fun.
awesome. So
I love it.
before we wrap up, any other final words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience
Yeah.
today?
Oh my gosh. I just want to say thank you first off for having me. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
being
And
here.
yeah, I think honestly, like, no matter where you're at in your career listening to this, I think that um, it can feel discouraging. I know we kind of talked about this, but I think one of the biggest things that's always been really helpful for me is, again, just going back to the why. Why am I doing this? Whether it's for your family, whether it's for you, whether it's for the creativity that sparked inside of you when you were in beauty school, or even just serving your clients. Like, there's so many reasons of why we are stylists. And again, we do make such an impact in people's lives, and we so rarely recognize it. So just remember that you make an impact in people's lives, and people are grateful for you for sure.
I love that. That makes me feel like all the warm and fuzzies inside today, and hopefully
Good.
the people, yes, hopefully those listening also feel that way too, because I love this industry. It is a part of me and my family forever, and just so grateful again for you for being here and taking the time to meet with us today.
Of
So we will
course.
see you soon, and we will
Yes.
definitely be keep watching for more PBA and Jaime together, because I know that we need to start talking about for 2023.
Yes.
Especially the
Yes.
students in our Beacon program. So
Yes.
put that out
For
into
sure.
the universe right now.
Yes. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We will talk to you all very soon.
Thank you.